The office lights flickered as the paramedics rushed in. Blood smeared the white marble floor like paint strokes on a canvas. A man lay still, his crisp suit soaked in red. The huge window behind him was shattered, the night breeze blowing in sharply, howling like it was mourning someone. Rose Owusu stood nearby, her hands trembling. One held a crumpled letter. The other, covered in blood. Her voice was quiet but full of pain. He was never supposed to fall in love. 2 months earlier, the beginning. Rose Owusu was a woman of silence and substance. At 27, she had already survived a toxic family, heartbreak, and years of being underestimated. Born in Accra, Ghana, she was the kind of woman who never looked for trouble, but trouble always seemed to find her. When she got the job as a secretary at S.L Group, Seoul's top-tier luxury conglomerate, she saw it as a fresh start. The company was known for its fashion, real estate, and hospitality branches, and more than that, its intense, intimidating CEO, Kong Mi-ho. She had read about him in magazines back in Ghana. A young billionaire who inherited the company after his father's scandalous death. Handsome, heartless, and arrogant. He wasn't the kind of man she cared for. Still, when she arrived in Korea, she stayed in her lane. No gossip. No flirting. Just focus. Rose wore simple outfits. Tucked-in shirts. Small earrings. She never raised her voice, never got involved in office politics. But her mind? Sharp. Organized. Deadly efficient. Her reports were always early, her memos flawless, her voice notes crisp. The only thing that made her stand out was her beauty, rich brown skin, deep almond eyes, and naturally full lips that rarely smiled. The staff whispered about her, but no one dared mess with her. She carried herself like royalty from a forgotten palace. But Kong Mi-ho noticed. At first, he thought she was boring. Then he started noticing how fast she solved problems no one else could. The way her eyes narrowed at sloppy work. The way her perfume lingered softly after she left a room. Still, he was Mi-ho. Reckless. Cold. Addicted to thrills. That's when the bet was born. One night, during a private yacht party on the Han River, Mi-ho and his spoiled billionaire friends drank champagne and talked trash, as usual. Mi-ho, you've dated K-pop idols, models, even that French ambassador's daughter, one friend said, swirling his glass. You need a real challenge. Another one laughed. What about the new African secretary? Rose, is it? Mi-ho scoffed. That quiet girl? Exactly. I bet you can't get her to date you in 2 weeks. Mi-ho leaned back lazily. What's in it for me? If you pull it off, they grinned, we'll give you the Beck-Tech deal without negotiation. That's $12 million guaranteed. He smirked. Deal. And just like that, a game began. The next morning, Rose noticed a fresh latte on her desk. Then a bouquet of white lilies. Then a handwritten note that said, I admire your quiet strength, KM. She frowned but said nothing. He began stopping by her desk, asking questions he already knew the answers to. Smiling. Waiting. One day, he leaned down during a briefing and whispered, You smell like rain on warm soil. She turned her head slowly. Her voice was calm. And you smell like someone who mistakes curiosity for permission. He blinked. She turned back to her laptop. Mi-ho should have walked away then. But instead, he smiled. For the first time in years, someone pushed back. What he didn't know was, Rose had already heard about the bet. She found out the very night it was made, because her neighbor in Seoul happened to be the waitress serving that yacht party. Small world. But Rose didn't react. She simply adjusted her lipstick, sharpened her mind, and whispered to herself, Let's play, CEO. They laughed behind her back. The African secretary who barely talked. The one who didn't go out for lunch with the other staff. The one who said no without raising her voice. But Rose Owusu had learned long ago that silence was a weapon. And when wielded right, it cut deeper than a scream. For the next week, Miho kept showing up at her desk with casual excuses. Need your eyes on this file. Any plans for the weekend? Mind helping me book a restaurant? He was charming. Too charming. Most women would have melted. But Rose? She responded with straight, emotionless professionalism. Noted, sir. I don't mix work with my weekends. The reservations have been made. Enjoy. She never blushed. Never giggled. Never played into it. And it bothered him. Because he was used to easy attention. He was used to women losing their minds over his attention. And suddenly, this dark-skinned beauty from Ghana was the only one who didn't treat him like a god. He couldn't stop thinking about her. But what he didn't know was that Rose was already flipping the board. Flashback, a week earlier. That night after she found out about the bet, Rose didn't cry. She didn't storm out. She researched him. She read old business reports, gossip sites, even old family scandals. She found out Miho's mother left when he was 10. She found out about the DUI in college. She found out his therapist resigned without notice. She also found out something no one else seemed to know: Miho was deeply lonely. Yes, he had money. Status. Fame. But people didn't see him. They used him. The girls wanted his power. His friends wanted his deals. And he wore his bad boy mask so tightly that even he had forgotten what he looked like underneath. So Rose made a decision. She would make him fall for her. But she would never fall for him. The next day, she started making tiny changes. When he walked in late with a hangover, she placed mint tea on his desk, quietly, without a note. When his shirt collar was folded awkwardly before a board meeting, she walked up with no smile and said, "Fix it. You represent us." Miho stared at her, startled. Then smoothed his collar like a schoolboy. The entire room went silent. People started watching them closely. One in turn whispered to another, "Why does the CEO look humbled?" And when he invited her to dinner, trying to escalate the bet, Rose agreed. But she chose the restaurant. She chose the time. She even ordered for both of them. "You seem like the type who orders steak but eats half," she said casually. "So I got you salmon." "You're welcome." Miho blinked. He didn't know whether to be annoyed or impressed. "You're different," he said, sipping the wine she picked. "Most women." "I'm not most women, Miho." She didn't call him sir that night. He stared at her across the table. Her skin glowing under the candlelight. Her braids tucked into a neat bun. Her lips forming calm sentences, each one carefully chosen. He leaned in and asked, "Why did you really come to Korea, Rose?" There was a flicker in her eyes, one he didn't catch fully. "To breathe," she said. Ghana started to feel like a room with no windows. He wanted to ask more. He wanted to know everything. But just then, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and stood up. "Thank you for dinner," she said, putting on her coat. He looked shocked. "That's it?" "Yes." "No coffee?" "No." "Another night?" "We'll see." She left him sitting there, speechless, wine glass in hand. And that night, for the first time in his adult life, Miho didn't sleep. Back in her small apartment, Rose removed her earrings and exhaled deeply. She opened her journal and scribbled. "He's falling. But the question is, how far can I let him fall before he realizes this isn't love? This is revenge wearing a dress." The office felt different now. Everyone noticed it, how the CEO looked less arrogant, how his footsteps slowed when he passed Rose's desk, how his tone softened whenever she entered a room. Something was happening. They just didn't know what. To the staff, it seemed like a mysterious love story. But behind the polished glass walls, this was a battlefield. And Rose wasn't playing checkers, she was playing chess with blood-red lipstick. 2 weeks into the bet. Miho had stopped laughing about it. The so-called bet that once felt like a fun game now haunted him. He'd told himself it was still under control. But Rose had messed up everything. She wasn't obsessed with him. She didn't cling or ask for gifts. In fact, she never even asked about his car, his house, or his money. She looked at him like a person, not a prize. And that scared him. Because he didn't know who he was without the prize. One rainy afternoon, he found her in the company library, a place nobody really visited. She sat alone, reading a poetry book, glasses low on her nose. Her soft brown skin glowed under the golden light. Her legs were crossed elegantly, and she didn't even look up when he entered. "Do you always hide here?" he asked, walking in with his usual confidence. "I don't hide," she replied, flipping a page. "I escape." He chuckled, sitting across from her. "I never knew you liked poetry. You've never asked." There was silence. Then he reached out, his fingers brushing the edge of her book. "I don't know who you are anymore." She looked up, slow and calm. "That's because you never tried to know me. You tried to win me. That's not the same thing." His jaw tightened. "I didn't mean." "You did." She closed the book. "You were playing. You all were." That was the first time she ever confirmed she knew. He froze. "You knew about the bet?" Rose stood up, graceful as always, then leaned down to whisper. "Miho, I've known from the beginning. That's why I've been feeding you breadcrumbs. You think you're chasing me, but really, you're walking exactly where I want you." She walked out before he could speak. And just like that, Miho realized something horrible. He was losing. Elsewhere in the building, someone was watching. Her name was Gae, a senior manager and Miho's ex-fling. She had been watching their tension grow, first with jealousy, then with rage. She couldn't stand how this random African girl had suddenly captured the boss's attention. So she did what bitter people do, she dug. She pulled phone logs. Security footage. Emails. And then, one rainy morning, she found it. A voice message sent by Miho to his friend the night of the yacht party. "She's pretty. But trust me, this will be easy. She's just a quiet African girl, shouldn't be hard to win the bet." Gae copied the file and smiled like a fox. She wasn't going to keep it to herself. She was going to destroy them both, with one email. The next day, all staff meeting. It started as a normal company update. People stood around with coffee, chit-chatting. Rose was on her laptop. Miho stood by the board. Then someone shouted, "Check your emails." Phones lit up. And there it was, the voice note, sent to every employee. Attached to it, a subject line that read, "The real reason the CEO is chasing the secretary." A deadly silence filled the room. Rose's fingers froze. The audio played in someone's speaker, echoing across the meeting room like a slap. "She's just a quiet African girl." The humiliation came fast. Whispers. Stares. Gasps. The walls of trust Rose had built began to crumble, and behind her composed face, her heart cracked. She turned, grabbed her bag, and walked out. Miho chased after her, breathless. "Rose. Wait. I never meant." She turned sharply. "Don't touch me. I didn't send that." But you said it. That was your voice, wasn't it?" "I didn't know you then, things changed." "I changed." "Too late," she whispered. "I was starting to believe you. But now. I remember why I never let anyone close." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Not yet. She walked away with her head high, her heels clicking like gunshots in the hallway. That night. In her tiny apartment, Rose sat alone. She stared at her reflection. Removed her earrings. Took off her makeup. And whispered to herself. No more games. If it's war he wants, then I'll give him the final battle. The city lights of Seoul glittered like fake stars. Rose Owusu sat in a taxi with her head leaning against the window, staring into the blur of neon signs and fast lives. Her phone buzzed non-stop. News blogs were already posting about the scandalous romance between the CEO and the African secretary. Photos from company events, the leaked voice note, her name trending in hashtags she never asked for. Her peace was gone. Her dignity, stained. She thought she was in control. But now, she wasn't sure anymore. Meanwhile at S.L Group, Kong Miho stormed into the boardroom, face pale. His phone was blowing up. Clients were pulling out. A scandal of this level, leaked audio, accusations of manipulation, and the racial undertone of it all, was a fire no PR team could put out quickly. His father's old enemies were circling like vultures. Fix this, he roared at the IT team. We're trying, sir, the head replied. But someone leaked it through an internal login, most likely, a staff member. Miho's jaw clenched. His eyes darkened. He knew who. GAE. She had always wanted control. And she had the perfect motive, jealousy. She wanted to destroy Rose, but instead, she just might bring the whole company down. Later that night, Rose's apartment. There was a knock at the door. She didn't move. A pause. Then another knock. Then his voice. Rose, please. Let me explain. She opened the door slowly. Her eyes were swollen. But she stood tall. What could you possibly say that would change anything? He stepped in, quietly. I didn't know you when I made that bet. That's true. I was selfish. But you changed me. Did I? She said coldly. Or did your guilt change you? He swallowed. You made me see people again. You made me care. Rose folded her arms. You cared. Then why didn't you speak up when I walked out like a criminal? Why did I have to hear your voice calling me just a quiet African girl from someone else's phone? Silence. I was scared, he admitted. She shook her head. And I was smart. I knew from the beginning. I played the part, Miho. I studied you, read your past, watched your moves. You thought you were the player. But I was always the one moving the pieces. Tears pricked his eyes. And yet, I still fell. She didn't respond. Her silence was louder than any shout. Then she walked to her drawer, pulled out a flash drive, and handed it to him. What's this? Proof that GAE leaked the voice note. I recorded her bragging about it in the ladies' room. I was going to report her before it even got out. But I waited. Why? She stared at him. To see how far you'd fall before you remembered you had a backbone. He blinked. She continued. But here's the truth, I don't want revenge anymore. I just want peace. Then let me make it right, he whispered. You can't. But I. Miho. I forgive you. But I'm still leaving. His breath caught. What do you mean? I resigned this afternoon. I already booked a flight to Ghana. No, don't. It's not because of the scandal. It's because I know myself. I love quietly, deeply, dangerously. If I stay, I'll love you more than I should. And I'm not sure you'll ever love me without needing to fix me first. He took a step forward, his voice breaking. Then I'll follow you. She raised a hand gently. No, Miho. This isn't a movie. This is my life. 3 weeks later, Accra, Ghana. The sky was warm. The air smelled like roasted peanuts and sea salt. Rose walked through the garden behind her grandmother's house, wearing a long white dress. Peace was starting to return. Her name had faded from the internet, her soul was healing slowly, and she was finally journaling again. But one thing still ached, he hadn't tried again. Maybe that was for the best. But just then, a car pulled up at the gate. Her heart skipped. It couldn't be. The gate opened, and there he was. Kang Miho. Standing in the Ghanaian heat, sweating, holding a bouquet of sunflowers. No suits. Just a simple white shirt and jeans. Rose, he said, breathless. She stared, stunned. How did you find me? I didn't stop looking. You left your company. I left everything. You were right. I didn't just need fixing, I needed to rebuild. And I wanted to rebuild somewhere, where people don't pretend to love. She blinked, unsure what to believe. I'm not here to beg, he added. I'm here to build. With you. If you'll let me. She stood still for a moment. Then walked up to him. Took the flowers. Took his hand. And whispered, you better know how to cook jollof. He laughed, full and real, for the first time in years. Teach me. They started a digital business together, Rose handling operations, Miho managing design. They traveled between Seoul and Accra. Their love wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And one day, when no one was looking, Miho proposed with a ring hidden inside her favorite book of poetry. Rose didn't cry. She just smiled. Because for once, love didn't feel like a trap. It felt like choice.
Hello besties, in this story we learned that true love cannot be born from manipulation or pride. Respect, honesty, and emotional maturity are the real foundations of connection. Even the most powerful people can fall, but it takes courage, humility, and self-awareness to rise again in love. And most importantly, never underestimate a quiet woman with a smart mind and a broken heart. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe, and share.